Noel Grant expected the hush, the weighted quiet that rides in before dawn, but not the kind now crawling over the causeway to Misty Marsh Bird Sanctuary. In his hands, he carried his silent shutter mirrorless rig, the one he deployed when light was grey and birds were timid. The annual spring dawn count drew dedicated citizens, scientists, and the odd thrill-seeker hoping for a glimpse of something rarer than a selfie. For Noel, it was reliable fodder for his magazine column, wildlife dispatches, and a chance to photograph migrants before crowds found the boardwalk. He arrived at 4:55 a.m., sliding the truck beside two other vehicles in the gravel turnout. Dew glittered in the headlights. Beyond the gate, bulrushes trembled like damp velvet. A soft bark, maybe a marsh wren, pulsed from the darkness. Two volunteers were already at the check-in table under a pop-up tent. LED lanterns threw white pools on clipboards, thermoses, and a plate of doughnuts someone always brought. "Morning, Grant," said Felix Baptiste, the long-time field biologist. "You're late by 5 minutes." "I brought last year's count sheets for comparison," Noel replied, raising a manila envelope. "Earns me a grace period." Felix snorted. "As long as you photograph something other than egrets, we've got interns for that." Noel signed his name, pocketed a laminated route map, and scanned for a familiar auburn ponytail usually bobbing between visitors. But he didn't see it. The volunteer coordinator, Rhonda Vale, was habitually early, corralling newbies with mechanical efficiency. Her absence twitched in his peripheral vision, the way a missing feather disturbs a bird's silhouette. "Rhonda overslept?" Noel asked. "Unlikely," Felix said. "She texted me at 3:30 about moving a scope to the west blind. Must be around." Noel set off down the boardwalk, camera hanging, backpack snug. Ahead, headlamps winked as scattered pairs of volunteers took up transects, their voices low to avoid spooking rails. A faint copper blush eased along the horizon, promising Nikon-friendly light in 20 minutes. He walked the east spur until cattails walled both sides and the boards dampened underfoot. The air smelled of tannin and salt. Somewhere a bittern boomed. Noel lifted his camera reflexively, but paused. The sound came again, deeper, slower. Not a bittern, more a human exhale turning inside reeds. "Noel?" a quavering whisper. He swung his lamp toward the voice. Abby Lynn, a grad student birder, stood knee-deep in shadows on the main boardwalk. "Something's wrong at Point Reeve. I think you should come." "Are you hurt?" Abby shook her head, ponytail lashing her raincoat. "Not me." She swallowed. "Rhonda." Noel followed her quickly along the narrow planks until they reached an overlook deck. Beyond its railing, a platform extended into knee-high water. On it, bathed in the ghostlight of Abby's lamp, lay Rhonda Vale. Her field vest was soaked, binocular strap empty across her chest, long-handled net beside one outflung arm. Reed blades stuck to her cheek like green scratches. Noel crouched, felt for a pulse he already knew wasn't there. Rhonda's skin was cool, not yet stiff. Her eyes, half open, reflected starlight. "Stay back," he said to Abby. "We'll call it in." He dialed, but reception sputtered. Felix's radio cracked instead, issuing from Abby's hip. Noel grabbed it. "Felix, come to Point Reeve. Medical emergency." Static then. "On my way." In the fragile minutes before others arrived, Noel's photographer brain kept firing, angles, compositions, frames, but he forced the reflex down. He saw details instead, a faint red line across Rhonda's left temple, mud ground into her knees, the sour vegetal smell of disturbed muck. And something absent, Rhonda's prized binoculars, a vintage pair of Zeiss Nighthawks worth nearly $5,000, rumoured to have belonged to her mentor. She wore them everywhere, even at the coffee machine. The neck strap remained, the optics did not. The emptiness of that leather cradle bothered Noel more than the silent body. Sirens wailed faintly, growing louder. Lanterns bobbed closer as Felix and 2 volunteers hustled up. When the EMTs pushed through cattails minutes later, they pronounced what Noel knew. Sheriff's deputies taped off the boardwalk, and sunrise turned the sky blood orange behind a line of patrol lights. By 8, the sanctuary had become a crime scene. Deputies ushered out volunteers, but allowed Noel to linger after Felix vouched for his documentation value. He walked a length of shoreline snapping context. Nothing graphic, just reeds, footprints, impressions in muck. Yet he couldn't dodge the drumbeat in his chest. Rhonda is dead. Someone took the Zeiss. He recalled yesterday, when Rhonda had cornered him near the observation tower. "Noel, look at this," she'd said, offering the binoculars. "I spotted a juvenile spoon-billed sandpiper. Here, in these marshes." Her eyes had sparkled. "If it's legit, we need photographic proof before word leaks. Otherwise, we'll have poachers crawling all over." He'd promised to meet her at first light, to help find the bird. Now she lay stiff while the rare sandpiper, if it existed, fed somewhere unseen. The sheriff, a broad woman named Marisol Krantz, approached, notebook in hand. "Mr. Grant, you discovered the body?" "Abby Lynn did. I arrived seconds later." "Anything moved? Touched?" "I checked pulse, that's all." "Notice missing items?" "Her Zeiss binoculars. She never sets them down." Krantz wrote quickly. "Those lenses fetch a price. Collectors, black market birders, poachers, take your pick." She swept the marsh with a look suggesting she could arrest the whole ecosystem. "I'll need statements, and I'd appreciate copies of your photos." "You'll have them tonight," Noel said. When Krantz walked off, Felix stepped beside him, grey beard twitching. "Hell of a morning." "She believed she'd located a spoon-billed sandpiper," Noel muttered. Felix let out a breath. "That would set off fireworks, critically endangered. If true, we'd get grant money, media, protective status." He shook his head. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That someone wanted to keep the sighting quiet, or exploit it. Either way, Rhonda's optics are gone." Felix frowned. "Who knew about the sandpiper?" "Just me, I think, but maybe others overheard." They scanned the thinning knots of volunteers. Several, including Abby, sat on picnic benches giving statements. Others paced parking gravel, faces pale. Noel studied them as though they were birds. Posture, gaze, agitation. Jared Coleman, a local antique dealer, leaned against his pickup, fidgeting with car keys. He'd once pestered Rhonda about the Zeiss, offering to appraise them for insurance. Nearby stood Melanie Price, a social media influencer who live-streamed every Ava set she'd ever seen. Rhonda often scolded her for broadcasting nest locations. And near the gate, maintenance worker Harvey Doyle spoke forcefully to a deputy, hands chopping air. Noel's instincts pinged like camera autofocus. Yet motive, means, opportunity, he needed all three in frame. He retreated to his truck, uploaded images to a laptop, and typed field notes, timestamping every observation. He cropped one image, faint boot prints leading from the boardwalk to the water's edge, pattern sharp, Vibram soles. Rhonda wore flat deck shoes. Among volunteers, he recalled one pair of Vibram tread waders, Harvey Doyle's. Noel zipped the files, emailed them to Sheriff Krantz via the marsh's shaky Wi-Fi, then locked gear inside. He glanced at his watch, 10:12 a.m. The sanctuary would remain closed at least a day. But if the spoon-billed sandpiper truly lurked here, the clock ticked for whoever coveted it. Going somewhere? Felix asked, appearing at the driver window. Hiking Doyle's maintenance trail. It skirts the reed beds where those prints point. Felix hesitated, then opened the passenger door. You need backup. They hiked along a service path lined with electrical conduit for the visitor center pumps, their boots threading mud. The sun, now harsh, warblers chipped overhead. Noel noted fresh indentations in silt matching his photograph, deep vibram diamonds. They followed them until a culvert yawned under the rail embankment. Water trickled, leaving a foot-high crawl space. On the far side, boot prints, then drag marks. Something was pulled through, Felix observed. Camera raised, Noel snapped. Or someone. They emerged beneath cypress canopy into a hidden pond. No boardwalk, no public entry. Lily pads floated, disturbed recently. Stems still bobbed. 3 coots flared, scolding. In shallows lay a discarded object glinting like obsidian. Noel stooped. A lens cap engraved with the Zeiss logo. He slipped it into an evidence bag from his pack. Could mean Harvey dumped the binoculars here, Felix said, or stashed them until retrieval. Rustling foliage cut the conversation. A figure emerged, Harvey Doyle, sleeves rolled, face shining sweat. Over one shoulder hung a net identical to the one found beside Rhonda. Over the other, a dry bag bulging awkwardly. He froze upon seeing them. This area's restricted, he barked. So was the boardwalk after sunrise, Noel replied, heart punching ribs. Yet your prints are everywhere. Harvey's gaze darted. I'm doing maintenance checks. Carrying Rhonda's equipment? Felix asked, pointing. Harvey's knuckles whitened on the net shaft. I don't answer to you. Felix shifted half-step to the left, blocking his retreat. Noel slid camera aside, reaching for phone, but service here would be nil. Rhonda caught you stealing the Zeiss and confronted you, Noel hypothesized aloud, buying time. You struggled, she fell, hit her head on a boardwalk support. You panicked. He gestured toward the bulging dry bag. What's in there? Egg clutches, live birds, something you promised a buyer? Harvey's nostrils flared. Then, without warning, he swung the net like a quarterstaff. Felix stumbled back, arms up. Noel lunged, hooking Harvey's elbow. The dry bag ripped, spilling contents, bundles of cash and a GPS tracker taped to a shoebox. The box cracked open. Inside, a tiny bird fluttered weakly, leg band gleaming silver. Its bill curved spoon-like at the tip. No, Noel breathed, recognizing the rarity. Harvey shoved Noel away and dashed for the culvert. Noel gave chase, camera forgotten. Footing slick, they both slipped, colliding into muck. Harvey regained balance first, but Noel tackled his legs. They splashed hard. Wings beat Noah's cheek. The sandpiper had squirmed free, scuttling across the mudflat before lifting into shaky flight. Harvey cursed, tried to wrench Noel's fingers from his ankle, but Felix arrived, pinning Harvey's shoulders using surprising strength. Stay down, Felix growled. Minutes later, Sheriff Krantz led deputies through reeds, alerted by Noel's SOS texts that finally pushed through. They cuffed Harvey, read rights. Krantz surveyed the scene, cash-soaked, net bent, empty dry bag. Explain. Felix summarized. Noel supplied photos and lens cap. Deputies bagged evidence. A wildlife officer collected the weakened sandpiper, promise of veterinary care. Harvey's motive unfolded like rotten kelp. He'd learned of the sandpiper days earlier, while rewiring security cameras near Rhonda's office. A trafficking syndicate paid him to capture the bird, along with Rhonda's vintage Zeiss, trophy for the buyer. Dawn Count provided cover. He'd planned to snag the sandpiper at first light using mealworms as bait, then vanish before volunteers returned from transects. Rhonda, doing early equipment checks, discovered him by chance and confronted him. He struck her with the net handle, knocking her against a railing. Her binoculars became collateral. When Abby's approach startled him, he dragged Rhonda's body onto the platform and fled through the maintenance trail. 2 days later, after statements, searches, and tearful press briefings, Misty Marsh reopened on limited basis. A memorial plaque for Rhonda rested near Point Reeve, ringed with white marshmallow asters. Noel returned at dawn, alone, camera ready. He breathed the still air that now held echo of sirens. The sandpiper, rehabilitated, had been released at a secret location up coast under heavy monitoring. Poaching charges stacked against Harvey and his buyers, who were traced via the cash bundle's bank wrappers. Standing at the railing where Rhonda had died, Noel lifted his lens toward the horizon. Light washed Reed's gold. A single great blue heron uncurled from a cypress, wings slow as a pendulum. Through the viewfinder, Noel glimpsed not just feathers and motion, but the fragile seam binding wonder to greed, beauty to danger. He pressed the shutter, every click a pledge to guard that seam, even when it tore at dawn among the reeds.